Imagine sitting on a long-haul flight, cruising at 35,000 feet somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. The cabin feels calm, the seatbelt sign is off, and the engines hum steadily in the background. What you may not realize is that for the majority of this journey, the pilots are not actually flying the plane by hand. Instead, a complex system known as Autopilot is quietly controlling the aircraft. And while that might sound like science fiction, the reality is far more technical and impressive than most people think. Autopilot is not artificial intelligence. It doesn't make decisions or improvise. It is a highly sophisticated flight control system that continuously monitors dozens of variables such as altitude, speed, heading, rate of climb, and aircraft position. It then makes hundreds of micro adjustments every minute to keep the aircraft exactly on its programmed path. It does this by manipulating the same flight control surfaces a pilot would use: the elevators, ailerons, rudder, and even engine thrust in some systems. At the core of Autopilot is something called the flight control computer. This is a ruggedized onboard processor that receives input from GPS, barometric altimeters, airspeed indicators, and an inertial measurement unit, or IMU. The IMU uses accelerometers and gyroscopes to detect movement in 3 dimensions: pitch, roll, and yaw. These sensors allow the system to detect any deviation from the expected path and issue precise corrections faster than any human could respond. But Autopilot doesn't mean pilots are obsolete. On the contrary, pilots remain fully responsible for the flight at all times. They activate and configure the Autopilot, enter the route, manage the modes, and supervise the entire system from takeoff to landing. Autopilot simply handles the actual flying under the pilot's instructions, like an incredibly reliable co-pilot that never gets tired or distracted. Commercial aircraft typically have multiple autopilot modes. LNAV, or lateral navigation, follows the horizontal flight path using GPS waypoints. VNAV, or vertical navigation, manages climbs and descents based on performance data and airspace restrictions. There are also modes for heading select, altitude hold, flight level change, and approach. These are all visible on a cockpit panel known as the Flight Mode Annunciator, which shows which systems are currently active. Even landings can be automated under very specific circumstances, using a system called ILS, or Instrument Landing System. A modern aircraft can perform a full auto land, but this only works at specially equipped airports with precise radio guidance and only under close monitoring by the pilots. The aircraft must be certified for auto land, the weather must meet strict limits, and the crew must be ready to take over instantly if anything goes wrong. So even when an aircraft lands by itself, it's under constant human supervision. What happens during emergencies? Surprisingly, Autopilot can continue operating even after a total engine failure. That's because aircraft are equipped with backup power sources like batteries and a device called the Ram Air Turbine, or RAT. When deployed into the airstream, the RAT generates enough electricity to power essential flight systems, including flight controls, radios, and sometimes the autopilot. This means that even in a worst-case scenario, pilots may still have partial autopilot capability during a glide and emergency landing. Speaking of gliding, pilots can also use autopilot during a descent without engines, maintaining stable pitch and heading while searching for a safe place to land. In severe turbulence, however, autopilot may be temporarily disabled, as human control can provide smoother and more adaptive responses to rapidly changing conditions. Autopilot systems are built with multiple layers of redundancy. That means there are usually 2 or 3 flight computers, multiple data sources for every sensor, and constant cross-checking between systems. If one computer fails or a sensor gives conflicting data, the system automatically isolates it and switches to a backup, ensuring continuous safe operation even if something goes wrong. This technology is not new. The first version of Autopilot was invented in 1912 by Sperry Corporation and could hold an aircraft level in both pitch and roll. In the 1950s, commercial jets started to use Autopilot for cruise flight. Today's systems are capable of managing every phase of flight, from initial climb to final approach, with accuracy measured in meters and milliseconds. In the future, Autopilot may become even more intelligent. Aircraft manufacturers are testing systems that can dynamically reroute flights in real time to save fuel, avoid turbulence, or adapt to changes in traffic and weather. These predictive features use machine learning, not to replace pilots, but to support them. So next time you're sitting on a plane and wondering who's flying, the answer is both a highly trained human and a system that has been refined over decades of engineering and experience. Autopilot doesn't replace the pilot. It empowers them. It's not a machine that takes over. It's a tool that keeps the skies safer, more efficient, and more stable than ever before. And that quiet, smooth flight across the ocean, it didn't happen by chance. It happened because someone and something was always watching. For more videos, subscribe our channel.